The tuna trade is a massive global industry worth billions of dollars. The commercial demand for tuna, particularly bluefin tuna, has skyrocketed in recent years due to its use in high-end dishes like sushi and sashimi. But the impact of this industry on the oceans is profound and potentially devastating. Overfishing, illegal fishing practices, environmental degradation, and the imbalance created in marine ecosystems are just a few of the consequences of the booming tuna trade. This script delves into the complex world of the tuna trade, examining its economic value, environmental impacts, and the urgent need for sustainable practices to protect our oceans. 1. The global tuna industry and its economic value. The tuna trade is one of the most lucrative sectors within the global seafood market, with global demand for tuna reaching unprecedented levels, particularly in countries like Japan, where it is a key ingredient in sushi. The value of the trade has soared. In particular, bluefin tuna, which can fetch tens of millions of dollars at auction, is considered the gold standard of sushi-grade tuna. The tuna industry spans multiple countries, and its economic impact can be seen in various sectors. Fisheries. Tuna is primarily caught by commercial fishing operations, which use large vessels equipped with advanced technology to locate and harvest the fish. The industry provides millions of jobs worldwide, from fishermen to traders to sushi chefs. Sushi market. The demand for high-quality tuna in sushi markets, especially in Japan, has driven the price of tuna to unprecedented levels. This niche market has created a competitive global trade, with rare bluefin tuna fetching prices that rival those of luxury goods. Exporting nations. Countries such as Japan, the United States, and several Pacific Island nations benefit economically from tuna exports. These nations have developed sophisticated supply chains to handle the harvesting, processing, and distribution of tuna worldwide. However, while the tuna industry's economic value is undeniable, its impact on the environment is far-reaching and concerning. 2. Overfishing and the decline of tuna populations. One of the most significant issues caused by the tuna trade is overfishing. As demand for tuna increases, so does the pressure on tuna populations. Species such as the Atlantic bluefin, Pacific bluefin, and biggie tuna have been particularly affected, with populations decreasing by as much as 90% over the past few decades. Overfishing occurs when tuna are caught faster than they can reproduce. This disrupts the natural balance of tuna populations and poses a threat to their survival. Key factors contributing to overfishing include high demand. The increasing popularity of tuna in global markets, especially sushi and sashimi, has led to an unsustainable rate of fishing. As tuna become more valuable, illegal fishing activities increase, further exacerbating the problem. Unsustainable fishing practices. Many fishing operations use methods like purse seining, longlining, and drift nets, which are not only harmful to tuna, but also to other marine species. These methods are highly effective in catching large numbers of fish, but are also indiscriminate catching bycatch, such as sharks, sea turtles, and dolphins, that are often discarded dead or dying. Lack of enforcement. Although many international treaties and organizations exist to regulate tuna fishing, such as the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, ICCAT, enforcement of these regulations is often weak. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated, IUU. Fishing continues to thrive, contributing to the depletion of tuna stocks. The combined effect of overfishing and illegal fishing practices threatens the future of tuna species, which could face extinction if the current trajectory is not reversed. 3. The impact on marine ecosystems. The depletion of tuna populations has far-reaching consequences for marine ecosystems. As apex predators, tuna play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the ocean's food chain. They regulate the populations of smaller fish and help keep the ecosystems in check. Trophic cascades. Tuna are key predators in marine ecosystems, and their decline can lead to cascading effects throughout the food web. Without tuna to keep the populations of smaller fish in check, these species may proliferate uncontrollably, which in turn affects the health of the entire ecosystem. Bycatch and collateral damage. The fishing methods employed in the tuna industry, such as longlining and purse seining, often capture unintended species as bycatch. This includes juvenile tuna, sharks, rays, seabirds, and sea turtles. The loss of these species can have devastating effects on the marine environment, further disrupting the natural balance. Habitat destruction. Tuna fishing operations, especially those using large purse seines, can also result in damage to sensitive marine habitats. The large-scale nets drag along the ocean floor, causing destruction to coral reefs and seafloor ecosystems, which are vital for maintaining biodiversity in the ocean. As tuna populations dwindle, these cascading effects threaten the integrity of marine ecosystems globally, which could have long-term consequences for biodiversity and food security. 4. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated IUU fishing. IUU fishing is one of the most significant drivers of the tuna crisis. It undermines the efforts of legitimate fisheries management organizations and contributes to the depletion of tuna populations. IUU fishing involves fishing activities that do not comply with international regulations or national laws, and often occurs in regions with weak enforcement or oversight. Pirate fishing vessels. In certain regions of the world, illegal fishing vessels operate with impunity, targeting tuna populations without regard for sustainable practices. These vessels are often unregistered and operate under false flags to avoid detection. Misreporting and underreporting. Even when tuna fishing is legal, the reporting of catches is often inaccurate. In some cases, fishermen underreport their catch to avoid quotas or tariffs. This makes it difficult for regulatory bodies to manage tuna populations effectively and ensure sustainable fishing practices. The role of technology. Advances in technology, such as satellite tracking, can help identify IUU fishing vessels and monitor tuna catches. However, many countries still lack the resources or political will to invest in these technologies or enforce regulations effectively. IUU fishing poses a significant threat to the sustainability of the tuna trade and exacerbates the already precarious state of tuna populations. 5. The path to sustainability, solutions, and future outlook. While the current state of the tuna trade is concerning, there are steps that can be taken to move toward a more sustainable future. Efforts to reduce overfishing, combat illegal fishing, and protect marine ecosystems are crucial to ensuring that tuna populations can recover and thrive in the future. Stronger international regulations. International organizations, such as the ICCAT and the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, WCPFC, must strengthen their regulations and work to ensure that fishing quotas are enforced and that IUU fishing is reduced. Increased collaboration between nations is essential to managing tuna populations on a global scale. Sustainable fishing practices. Fishing industries can adopt more sustainable practices, such as using eco-friendly fishing gear, reducing bycatch, and implementing time and area closures to allow tuna populations to recover. Certification programs like the Marine Stewardship Council, MSC, can help consumers identify sustainably sourced tuna. Consumer awareness. Consumers play a vital role in promoting sustainability in the tuna trade. By choosing sustainably sourced tuna, individuals can help reduce the demand for unsustainable fishing practices. Awareness campaigns and educational efforts can also help reduce the consumption of endangered tuna species, like bluefin. Marine protected areas. Establishing marine protected areas, MPAs, where fishing is restricted or banned, can give tuna populations a chance to recover and rebuild. These areas also provide refuge for other marine species that may be affected by fishing. Technological innovation. Advances in technology can also play a key role in addressing the tuna crisis. Satellite monitoring, drones, and AI-driven tools can help track fishing vessels and enforce regulations more effectively. Additionally, innovations in aquaculture could provide an alternative to wild-caught tuna and help meet market demand without further harming ocean ecosystems. 6. The role of governments in regulating tuna fishing. Governments play a crucial role in the sustainability of tuna fishing and ensuring that international agreements are respected. As tuna is a highly migratory species that swims across vast distances, no single nation can ensure the conservation of these fish without global cooperation. Governments must not only enforce their own national laws, but also work with international bodies to ensure that fishing activities are sustainable. National regulations. Each tuna exporting country is responsible for implementing its own fishing regulations. These regulations may include fishing quotas, restrictions on fishing seasons, and guidelines for sustainable harvesting. However, these laws are often difficult to enforce, particularly in developing nations where resources for monitoring and enforcement are scarce. This is where international cooperation becomes essential. International treaties. Agreements such as the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, provide a framework for nations to cooperate on ocean conservation. Regional fisheries management organizations, RFMOs, like the ICCAT, International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, and the WCPFC, Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, have been established to coordinate efforts to conserve tuna populations. However, enforcement remains a major challenge due to political and economic interests that often undermine these agreements. The need for stronger enforcement. Governments need to invest more in enforcement measures to curb illegal fishing activities. This could involve more sophisticated patrol systems, stronger penalties for violations, and the use of new technologies like satellite surveillance and tracking systems to monitor tuna fishing vessels. Without stringent enforcement, even the most well-meaning regulations will be ineffective. 7. The intersection of tuna fishing and global trade dynamics. The tuna trade is not just a matter of local fishing economies. It is intricately tied to global trade dynamics. Tuna is a global commodity, and its market value is shaped by various factors, including geopolitical considerations, market demand, and the profitability of international trade routes. Understanding the economic forces behind tuna trade is essential for understanding why tuna fishing practices can sometimes be unsustainable. Global demand. The demand for tuna, especially high-end varieties like bluefin, is driven largely by countries such as Japan, the United States, and increasingly, China. The insatiable demand for sushi, sashimi, and other luxury tuna-based dishes has made tuna one of the most valuable fish in the world. As a result, tuna prices fluctuate wildly, with record-breaking prices paid at auctions in Japan and other markets. Supply chains and export markets. Tuna's journey from the ocean to the consumer involves a complex global supply chain. Tuna is often caught in one part of the world, processed in another, and then exported to high-demand countries. Pacific Island nations, such as the Federated States of Micronesia and Papua New Guinea, supply a significant portion of the world's tuna, but the benefits are not always evenly distributed. Large fishing companies often profit the most, while local fishing communities may see little benefit. Economic pressures on small island nations. Many tuna-rich regions are developing nations, where fishing provides essential income and livelihoods. Governments of these nations face the difficult decision of balancing economic development with conservation efforts. With the pressure to generate revenue from tuna exports, they may sometimes struggle to impose strict regulations on their fishing industries, especially when external actors such as multinational fishing companies exert influence over local economies. The role of trade agreements. Trade agreements also play a significant role in shaping the tuna industry. For instance, bilateral agreements between nations often allow foreign fishing fleets to access tuna-rich waters in exchange for financial compensation. While these agreements can boost the economies of developing nations, they can also lead to overfishing if not properly managed. 8. Tuna aquaculture. A solution or another problem. As wild tuna stocks decline, there is increasing interest in tuna aquaculture, or the farming of tuna, as a potential solution to meet global demand without depleting wild populations. However, the practice of farming tuna is controversial, and there are both advantages and drawbacks to this approach. The promise of tuna farming. Tuna aquaculture could theoretically reduce the pressure on wild tuna populations. By farming tuna in controlled environments, it may be possible to meet market demand without extracting more fish from the oceans. Additionally, aquaculture could provide jobs and boost the economies of coastal communities. Challenges of tuna farming. Tuna farming is an expensive and resource-intensive process. Tuna are highly migratory and require vast spaces to thrive, making them difficult to farm in captivity. Additionally, the feed for farmed tuna often consists of wild-caught fish, which exacerbates the depletion of marine resources. Moreover, farming tuna in confined spaces can lead to health issues for the fish and create pollution and waste that can harm local ecosystems. Environmental concerns. The environmental impact of tuna farming is still a subject of debate. Critics argue that tuna farms can cause significant damage to the surrounding marine environment, including the spread of diseases and parasites to wild fish populations. Furthermore, the farming of tuna requires high levels of energy and water, contributing to the carbon footprint of the industry. Is tuna aquaculture sustainable? While tuna farming may provide a short-term solution, it is unlikely to be the long-term answer to the challenges of the tuna trade. For aquaculture to be truly sustainable, it would need to drastically reduce its reliance on wild-caught fish for feed and improve the health and environmental standards of farming operations. 9. The impact of climate change on tuna populations. Climate change is already having profound effects on marine ecosystems, and tuna populations are no exception. The changing temperature, acidification of the oceans, and shifting ocean currents are all influencing tuna habitats, migration patterns, and breeding cycles. Shifts in distribution. As ocean temperatures rise, tuna are shifting their distribution to cooler waters. This affects the regions where tuna can be found, leading to changes in fishing patterns and creating competition for resources among fishing nations. Some areas, particularly in the tropics, may see a decline in tuna populations, while cooler regions may see an influx. Changing migration patterns. Tuna are migratory species that travel vast distances in search of food and suitable breeding grounds. As climate change alters ocean currents and temperatures, tuna may find their traditional migration routes disrupted, leading to challenges for fishermen who rely on predictable tuna movements. Ocean acidification. The increasing acidity of the oceans, due to higher carbon dioxide levels, can have detrimental effects on marine life, including tuna. Acidification affects the ability of marine organisms, like plankton, to build shells and skeletons, disrupting the food chain that supports tuna populations. Impact on reproduction. The warming of ocean waters also affects the breeding and spawning cycles of tuna. Warmer temperatures can result in mismatched timing between the availability of food and the reproductive needs of tuna, potentially impacting their ability to reproduce effectively. Environmental impact of unsustainable fishing practices. These organizations can help shift consumer behavior toward more sustainable choices. Market pressure for change. As consumers increasingly choose sustainable options, they can drive change in the market. Businesses that fail to adapt to the growing demand for responsibly sourced products risk losing customers to competitors that are committed to sustainability. Consumer pressure can push companies to implement more transparent supply chains and adopt more sustainable practices to protect their market share. The billion-dollar tuna trade is not just an economic issue, but one that involves the health of our oceans and the future of marine biodiversity. Through international collaboration, improved regulations, sustainable practices, and consumer responsibility, we can ensure that tuna remains a viable and sustainable resource for future generations. The key to a thriving tuna trade lies in balancing profit with conservation to protect the delicate ecosystems that tuna and countless other species rely on.